Ivan Simon had always been underestimated. As the loyal and sharp-witted bodyguard to Samuel King, the heir to the King family's billion-dollar textile empire, Ivan knew the game all too well. Samuel was arrogant, dismissive of anyone beneath him, and frequently took out his frustrations on Ivan, who was nothing more than a silent, loyal presence. Yet despite their strained relationship, Ivan remained, motivated by pride in his job and a deeply buried loyalty that only grew stronger over the years. But one fateful night, during an argument that had escalated beyond reason, everything changed. "Do you even realize how much I hate you?" Ivan spat, the words venomous. Samuel, never one to back down, sneered. "Then why don't you leave?" The word stung, but it wasn't the insults that mattered anymore. Something in the air shifted, raw anger, unspoken desire, and years of suppressed emotion surged to the surface. Without thinking, Ivan stepped forward, grabbing Samuel by the collar, and their lips collided in a kiss that was all fire and heat. The boundaries they had built, layer by layer, crumbled under the intensity of the moment. What followed was a night that neither of them could deny, passionate, consuming, and full of guilt. The next morning, Ivan woke up alone in the cold, empty bed, regret gnawing at him. The lines had been crossed, and their relationship had changed irreparably. But life, as it often does, didn't give Ivan time to dwell on his internal conflict. 3 days later, Samuel was kidnapped. The kidnapping sent shockwaves through the King family. Samuel's abduction was not only a personal loss but a national crisis. The family's influence stretched far and wide, and the media circus that followed was relentless. Ivan felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever as he vowed to find Samuel, no matter the cost. Days turned into nights as Ivan worked tirelessly, turning every stone, every piece of information. His methods were ruthless, tracking down lowlifes in dark alleyways, employing informants who'd seen too much and heard too much to turn back now. His obsession with finding Samuel grew. There was more at play than duty, something deeper was stirring inside him. Finally, a breakthrough came. A lead led him to a dangerous underground mafia ring, known for kidnapping wealthy heirs as leverage. Ivan infiltrated their base, all sense of caution discarded. Every instinct screamed at him to save Samuel before it was too late. What he found in that hideout, however, shattered him. Samuel was broken. His once proud figure was now a shadow of his former self, bruised, exhausted, and haunted by the torment he had endured. Ivan's heart clenched as he rushed to carry him out, vowing silently that no one would ever touch him again. Back at the King estate, Ivan never left Samuel's side. He became everything to him: caretaker, protector, healer. Samuel's body might have healed, but the psychological scars ran deep. Nightmares tormented him, and Ivan was there every time, soothing him with quiet words and tender gestures. Slowly, the animosity that had once defined their relationship began to fade. Ivan stayed by Samuel's side day and night, feeding him, bathing him when he was too weak, and holding him through the flashbacks. Samuel began to rely on Ivan, the man who had once only been his bodyguard. In these vulnerable moments, something began to grow between them, an unspoken understanding, a deep connection that neither of them could deny. The days passed, and Samuel's recovery continued. But with recovery came new complications. A week after Samuel's return to the office, his father announced a business alliance with another tycoon, one that would require Samuel to marry his daughter. The prospect of an arranged marriage hung over Samuel like a storm cloud, and he couldn't shake the unease that bubbled inside him. He was torn between duty and the growing, undeniable feelings he had for Ivan. One evening, as Ivan reviewed a file on the woman Samuel was supposed to marry, something inside him snapped. He stared at the profile, unable to swallow the lump in his throat. This wasn't what he wanted. This wasn't who Samuel belonged to. Ivan's hand trembled as he crushed the document in his hand. Samuel raised an eyebrow at Ivan's reaction, amusement flickering in his eyes. "What's wrong with you?" Ivan's eyes darkened as he dropped the shredded paper to the ground. Without thinking, his hand shot out and grabbed Samuel by the collar, pulling him into a kiss that was raw, desperate, and filled with everything Ivan had been hiding. There was no mistaking it. No more walls. No more games. The kiss was a declaration, a message. Samuel stiffened at first, surprise and confusion evident in his eyes, but slowly, as the weight of Ivan's touch sank in, his resistance crumbled. Samuel kissed him back, fiercely, passionately. In that moment, all the fear and hesitation melted away, leaving nothing but the undeniable need between them. That night, they made love. But it was different than before. This time, it was not just a blur of lust, but something more meaningful. Afterward, as they lay together, bodies entwined, Ivan confessed his feelings. "I love you, Samuel," his voice was soft, almost breaking. "I hate myself for it, but I do." Samuel, breathing heavily, brushed his lips against Ivan's forehead. "I think I love you too," he whispered, his heart finally opening to the truth. But love, especially one born out of hate and conflict, was never easy. Their feelings were raw and vulnerable, and even though their connection deepened, they couldn't simply walk away from the mess they had made. It wasn't just about passion anymore, it was about understanding and acceptance. In the months that followed, the pair continued their secret romance, navigating the precarious balance of work, family obligations, and a love they couldn't hide forever. Eventually, Samuel made the decision that would change everything. During a grand family dinner, he stood up, his voice unwavering, as he declared to the room, "I'm in love with Ivan, and I'm not marrying anyone else." The room fell silent as Samuel's father erupted in fury, but Samuel didn't care. For the first time in his life, he stood up for himself and his heart. Ivan, though initially reluctant, stood by his side. He had been Samuel's protector for so long, but now, he was more. Months later, Samuel proposed. It wasn't a grand gesture, but a quiet, intimate moment shared between them. They had found a love that had defied every expectation, one that had grown from resentment to something far more beautiful than either had ever imagined. Years later, Samuel and Ivan adopted a child, finally making their family whole. The world had once seen them as mismatched, but they had built something solid, rooted in trust and unwavering devotion. Samuel, the spoiled heir, had learned humility and kindness. Ivan, the once loyal servant, found his greatest happiness in loving the man he had once loathed. Together, they proved that even the most unlikely love could thrive, a testament to the strength of their bond. No longer just a bodyguard and his boss, Ivan and Samuel had become partners in every sense of the word, facing every challenge that life threw at them, hand in hand, with love and loyalty guiding their path.